Welcome to Backstage with Becca Beat with special guest Chelsea Emma Franko. Hi everyone, and welcome to this episode of Backstage with Becca Beat. On this episode, she knew she wanted to be a theater performer when she went to NYC with her family and saw 11 shows in 10 days. Since then, she's performed in regional shows like Thoroughly Modern Millie, Chicago, Company, and more. She has played Elsa at the Hyperion Theater at California Adventure, and she was the Elphaba standby on the second national tour of Wicked. Please welcome Chelsea Emma Franko.
Hello, how are you? Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. I'm fantastic.
Oh, good.
I've heard so many wonderful things about your performances from Malia especially.
Oh, well, I love her. So
she's told me a lot of wonderful things. I'm so excited to have you on to talk about your theater career.
Oh, thanks. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for asking me. It was such a sweet little email to get.
Of course. So how have you been during this time? It's been like super weird because like obviously no live theater, everything's virtual.
Yes. I've been fine. I mean, it's hard to not do what you love to do. Like, because I was doing it on a regular basis. Not every actor is as I don't want to say lucky because I don't think that I'm lucky. I just think it was just right place, right time situation, but not everyone gets to have an experience where it's a long-term, for a long run of something, especially if they live in California. That's rare. So for me, I was performing at least once a week at Frozen, and that was a shift for sure. And it had been a long time since I hadn't worked on a regular basis because I mean, gosh, I can't even remember the last time that I wasn't doing something like consistently. Like it's been years, so it's been a struggle. But to be honest, I actually haven't wanted to even watch anything. At the beginning of quarantine, I was like, I don't want to see any taped live productions. Like I don't want to watch anything artistic because it was like way too emotional for me. So
it's sad. It's
been a learning experience, I guess that's the way to put that.
Yeah, and I feel like as we get farther and farther into this, it's like you figure out things to do and you figure out like a daily routine for your life without the thing that you love. But
and I think it's important to busy your mind. That's what my mom always says. So I definitely spent, the first month I was like, this is not a problem at all. I could just do this forever. Eating those words. So I had to like figure out a way to busy my mind. And let's see, we started quarantine in March. And let's say around like April, like halfway through April, just after tax day in April of last year, I decided I'm going back to school. And so I've been doing that, and I actually will graduate on June 1st. So like that's what I did during quarantine.
That's so amazing.
Thanks so much. It's been almost a decade since I was in school. That's how old I am. And so I it was like a shift.
Yeah.
The way that because last time I was in school, I wasn't like I am now. I wasn't someone that was applied, like I don't know if you are this way, but I struggle to motivate myself when it comes to schoolwork.
Same.
My mom used to say when I was growing up, I don't have to beg you to practice in your room for hours and hours and hours singing to Broadway cast recordings. But in order for you to get this math homework done, I have to like bribe you. But that's not how I am anymore. So I was joking around with my friend. I said, I really feel like college should just be for adults only. You'd actually get stuff done. You would figure out how to time manage. There's like so many things about college that you would benefit having a few years of like life experience under your belt before doing that. But this is the way that it worked out, you know. Everyone has their own journey, so
yeah, everyone gets motivated at different times to go to school, to do the work in school that's necessary. I was the exact same way, so I totally get it. And you've been learning by doing things over the years. So
that's right. You know, I don't think that there's a wrong way to do it. People used to ask me all the time, "What school did you go to?" And I'm like, "Oh, I dropped out of college, so I'm not the person you ask when you're trying to figure out what like BFA program to audition for, because I auditioned for all of them and didn't get into any of them. So I'm not your cookie cutter. So I think everybody just has to find their own way and figure it out as they go along, you know?
Yeah, and look at you. You didn't need the BFA program. You've been working consistently, as you said.
Yeah, you know, I think there's great things about BFA programs. I honestly tried so hard. I really wanted to get a degree in musical theater, but it just wasn't in the cards for me. And I ended up learning by doing. And some people, I tend to do best that way. Not everybody does. And I kind of wish that I would have been able to like have a program to like grow in and to have all those things kind of checked off, you know, as opposed to learning them just as they came up in my life. But I mean, it's been fine.
But it's a story to tell. It's a great story to tell. Yeah. So kind of going back to the beginning, have you always known that you wanted to be a theater performer?
No. That's the simple answer. My mom will tell you that I had a dream when I was like 10 to be like a crime scene investigator. I wanted to be a criminal profiler. I really wanted to like be a criminal profiler and do what, did you ever watch that show, Criminal Minds?
My sister watched it all the time and I was always in the room, so yes.
Yeah, so that's what I wanted to profile, and I wanted to catch the bad guy. And I still have that like desire in me, but I don't think that's ever gonna happen. So yeah, no, I kind of bounced around between criminal profiler, crime scene investigator of some sort. Like that's not even a real job, but but that show, I was so obsessed with that show. I also, for a very long time in high school, I was seriously thinking about getting a degree in, well, if I can remember what it's called, I wanted to be a investigative journalist. So I desperately wanted to go to Columbia University and get that degree because they have one of the best journalism programs in the country. And I don't know, you know, something happened at 13. My mom and dad took me to New York and I saw Thoroughly Modern Millie with Sutton Foster as my very first Broadway show. And I watched her sing Gimme Gimme. And I just said, I want to do that. And then my life shifted, you know, like everything started to be focused on how do I do this for a career, as opposed, because I've always sung. I've been singing before I was talking. So it wasn't that I just like all of a sudden was turned on to this idea of singing and performing. I've always done that, but I wasn't always thinking it was a career. So for sure, up until I would say 13 was when I went to New York for the first time. So yeah, no, it has not been my number one only forever option.
Hey, and maybe someone will write like a musical about like a crime scene investigator. So like you can be a crime scene investigator in a musical.
Listen, it was honestly Nancy Drew and Kit Kittredge from the America Girls dolls. I was obsessed with them, and I had my own newspaper that I put out every single week for my cul-de-sac, and I would deliver the papers and I would like write crossword puzzles.
Oh my goodness.
The whole thing. I was so obsessed with writing. I still love writing. It's still a huge outlet for me, for sure. I love using words, and I just love language. It's another way of being creative, you know?
Yeah.
So I maybe one day they'll do like a Nancy Drew the musical. Hey, hit
I
me
do
up.
know. I love that show on CW right now. So
I have not been watching, but I love Nancy Drew. I also was obsessed with Harriet the Spy. I don't know if you're familiar.
yes.
That movie was like it for me. I was like carrying around stuff in my pockets as a kid. I would like carry around like magnifying glasses and like little pads of paper and pens in like my jacket pockets, and then just like looking for clues to no crime. I don't know what that was about, but I was really, really into that. So yeah.
Mystery's the best, and it always has like a cliffhanger or something, so it keeps you hooked.
You get it. You get it.
It keeps you hooked. And you saying you like talking about your childhood reminds me of from Home Before Dark on Apple TV. I don't know if you've seen it, but
no,
it's like
I haven't watched
you're describing that the exact plot.
Listen, my life should be a movie.
It should be. It should be.
No.
You saw 11 shows in 10 days, I saw when you went to New York.
That first time, yeah, we were just theater hopping. It was like we would like get dressed for the day. We would go in the morning, we would get breakfast and then go and do some like touristy thing. And then after that, we would honestly just walk into the theater, see the show, be done with the show, go and get like a early dinner, late lunch, and then like walk into another theater. And just the whole trip was sort of, we planned like 5 of the shows ahead of time, and then the rest we just grabbed them at TKTS and like just tried to get shows, or like called like my mom's theater friends and like, do you have any house seats? Like we were just trying to figure it all out as we went along, and it was like the best trip. It was such a good time. We had so many of my like really important childhood memories come from that trip. So that was that first trip, and then that was in July, and then the next February, March, I was back. We were back in New York seeing like 9 more shows. So it was just, that's how cool my parents are. I mean, my mom obviously she's like, oh yeah, I wanted my daughter to have like a great experience, but really she also wanted to see all of the shows too, because she's a huge theater person and like performer, and that's where that all comes from, is from her. So it was definitely selfish on her end, but I was happy to be reaping the benefits.
Yes, I was gonna say your parents had to be like theater fans if they were taking you to that many shows, because I have a hard time. My parents like theater, but I have a hard time convincing them to see that many shows in like that few of days.
Yeah. My dad is not a theater person. Like he's not in the arts. But he grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. And Cleveland, if anyone knows of Cleveland or if they're from around there, they know that it's a very heavy arts community. And especially when he was growing up, like in the 70s, like he would see these amazing classic rock bands for like $3. And just, it was the time of his life. He used to just go and see the ballet or the orchestra or the symphony and go to museums. He's big into the fine arts. So, you know, he loves that too. He loves to see shows, but he's not ever been in one. That's not what he does. But he helps out backstage. He's part of the group, you know.
Yes.
Like the Franko family performers.
I love that, because like you can be involved in theater and not be on stage. So
honestly, there's so many jobs to do, and someone has to do all of them. And he's good at taking what my mom has in her brain and like making it into a reality onto the stage. Like he's good at building things and like interpreting her mind. I don't know, he's really good at that. So yeah, so they both obviously love. My mom comes from a background of theater, so we just
theater fam.
We're a theater fam, you know. We really like to, we're connoisseurs, as you will.
Yeah. Do you think that, has your family worked on a show like all together before, or is that like on the bucket list?
No, my mom, when I was 11 or maybe 13. It was a big year for me. Um, 13, my mom founded a youth theater performing arts company.
Oh,
So she like did it all. She was, creative director, choreographer, like she did it all. And my dad was also on the board. And so he would help build sets. She would put the whole show up, and then I would be in the show. So
so
yeah, definitely. I mean, we've done that, but not like on a professional level. My dad doesn't do it professionally. My mom and I do. So I've done a few shows with my mom here in California in the regional theater scene, and that's been really fun. We haven't yet, like, we've played mother daughter on stage before, but not like professionally.
So it's on the bucket list.
On the bucket list.
Manifesting that one.
Yes, we really want to speak it into existence.
Yes, please. For anyone watching, write a role.
Yeah, you know it.
Right,
I mean, we have bucket list roles. Like, we would love to do Light in the Piazza together. We would love to do You're in Town together. I mean, there's like a bunch of shows. Yeah. There's a ton of shows with mother daughter. I mean, let's talk about Grey Gardens. That would be grand.
Okay. Yes.
So we'll see. Who knows what the future will bring.
Probably that in the future, at some point. So you've consistently been working on the West Coast and in and around LA. What's kept you in LA versus moving to New York City?
Oh, this is a great question. For a long time working in LA, I wasn't equity. And I always said, I'm not going to go to New York and like move my whole life across the country without either an agent, an equity card, or a role that's taking me there. Those are my 3 criteria things. So none of those things, like, I mean, I've had an agent and I'm now equity. So, but they've never kind of lined up where it was the right season to go. I have a lot of friends that are like, there's never a good time to move to New York, so you just have to go. And my answer to that has always been, you're right. There is never like the perfect time to move to New York, but there are better times. Sometimes there are better times to move than others. Ooh, sorry. Can you hear that in the mic?
No, no.
Oh. I'm animated with my hands.
I mean, same.
Yeah. So I really haven't had just the opportunity. Like, I haven't felt like it was the exact right moment I feel like there's going to be like this gut like feeling.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, I thought that was happening. I was actually like 2 days away from getting on the airplane to move to New York, and then the shutdown happened.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So timing clearly hasn't lined up. So I'm just waiting. I'm just biding my time. I think I'm going to be interested to see how things start to open up once
everything
can. Yeah. Once we can
once
again.
Everything can.
Yeah, and we're safe, and I feel confident that that's going to be. I'm not going to be putting my or other people's lives in danger by going on stage, because that's really what is the biggest thing. It's, for me, it's like, well, I don't want to put anyone else in danger, and of course, I don't want to get COVID either. So let's just put pause on that. So when I feel like that's something that I can safely do, then I'll see how the industry is and see what's going on. I think, I've said this recently, that I think potentially the industry is going to be changing to kind of less of a footprint, like normally with auditions for Broadway, especially, it's like many days in a studio, many thousands of people that you're seeing in a day, multiple rounds of callbacks, costume fittings, like there's so much that goes into them. But I think that now we've all learned how to navigate Zoom, and we know how to do things. So my mom has done like 5 or 6 auditions on Zoom during COVID. So I think that it's possible. And I think people are starting to realize, oh, this could actually save us a lot of time, a lot of resources, a lot of money. That's a big one. So I think potentially I could be here in California until there'd be like a reason to move. aside from just timing,
Yeah.
uh, I didn't want to go to New York before it was time to go to New York in regards to what I had to offer. I didn't ever want to think that I was like gonna be the next Sutton Foster and like just arrive in New York and all of a sudden I'm gonna be like the Tony Award winner of the next show. I mean, that happens, but like it already happened to Sutton Foster, so it's not gonna happen to me. So I wanted to make sure that my resume looked appealing. I wanted to make sure that I felt confident that if I were going into a room that it wasn't like over my head. I wanted to make sure that my craft that I had like really studied and trained, and that I wasn't going to be throwing myself into the deep end before I've learned how to just like wade in the water.
Yeah.
So I've just sort of been holding off, and I was holding off until then, and then that's when I booked Frozen, and then that kept me in California for like a year and a half, and then
It's so fun.
yeah, you know, and it's also one of the only jobs in California where it's that kind of a consistent job.
Theater production,
like,
yeah.
every week I get a paycheck and I'm performing for this paycheck, and that's not a thing in California.
Yeah, we don't have like the Broadway street where like shows happen consistently year round.
Right, exactly. And you know, it's high cost of living in California or in New York. And my parents said to me, if you're going to do this, we fully support you. But I think until you get a job that like really can help, like you can pay the bills and not like just like collapse because you're not eating, then you should stay at home. I'm an only child, so I don't have other siblings to compete with. It's really just me and my parents, and so they have the financial stability, well they have had in the past and now too, like but like my whole life we've had the financial stability where I could stay at home and commute to auditions. In California that's a normal thing, right? So in New York or anywhere else in the country, really, people are like, wait, you live like an hour and a half away from where you auditioned or where you like do shows? And it's like, well, yeah, but this is California. So
yeah, in California it takes an hour to get from Studio to Anaheim.
Yeah. Exactly. That's exactly right. It can take, I mean, I have friends, I live in Apple Valley. And so if anyone looks on the map from here to Anaheim, it's, you know, an hour and 20 minutes without traffic. So it's like 77 miles. But that's not anything, if you put it in perspective, like to get from the valley to like Santa Monica, it also takes that same amount of time, but it's 20 miles. So there's, to me, I felt like it was just best to save money, not have to get a muggle job is what I called it. I don't want to get a muggle job and then not have the opportunity to go to auditions. So living at home and just commuting to auditions, you know, working some side jobs, doing shows here and there to kind of supplement some finances and all that jazz. That was the best way for me to do this. And then when Frozen happened, obviously everything shifted. So that's sort of the reason. Those are the real reasons why I've never gone to New York to like really do it full time.
Okay. And LA has great weather, so
listen, listen, Linda. LA is the best, the best weather. Yeah, I love cold weather. I love the cold. I'm not a snow bunny, like I don't like to play in the cold, but I love like being in that weather. I love having seasons. But if you are a struggling artist, I don't want to do it in that kind of situation.
Yes, understand.
Struggle in California.
I mean, jackets are expensive, so like,
yes,
no,
you get it.
And you've done a lot of regional shows in California and played impressive roles in regional shows. Do you have a favorite regional show you've done?
Oh wow, I have favorite. Well, I mean, I would say I have favorite Wow, no, I mean, that's a really hard question because I think each one of them was monumental to me because I was always trying to get to the next level up. Like I didn't want to just stay here because I'm not like a chorus kid. Like I don't, that's not where my talents lie. There are people that are phenomenal at that, but my number one thing is not dancing. I mean, I do it, and I've done it all my life, but it's not the thing that people know me for. And so
Like,
I just, what was that?
you're like, I can, but
Exactly. I can, but it's not, I'm not going to ever go to the dancer call first. I'm going to go to the singer call first. So that's just knowing my strengths. And in the chorus, those gals and guys and non-binary pals and all them, they have to be able to be triple threats. And they are triple threats. And I just I can, I'm just like kind of trailing behind in that category. So I was always trying to get like, maybe I could get a line in the next show, or maybe I could have one solo, like I was always trying to go to the next level. So I can't really like pick a favorite. I mean, one of my first roles regionally, like main roles, was Ado Annie in Oklahoma. And that was like a big deal for me because I had been auditioning for what seemed like forever and hadn't really gotten, no one had, because I didn't have any lead roles on my resume. And so nobody wanted to give me that chance. That's sort of a commonality in all theater, I feel. But they gave me a shot, and that sort of shifted everything before like really leading shows of great magnitude. So I mean, that was a great opportunity. I loved doing Damn Yankees at 3D Theatricals. I played Gloria Thorpe, and that was a huge dream role for me. I loved doing Company. I did Company at where was that? At Cabrillo Music Theater, which is now 5-Star Theatricals. And I did it. It was the first time that I had done any Sondheim show, and it was Marta who sings Another 100 People, and is like, I can remember in my room belting that out at 10. And so finally, full circle. And then like the next year, like that was in October. Yeah, like October time. And then I went to New York to audition just for funsies, just to see how things went. And my first audition in New York was for Company at Bucks County Playhouse with Hunter Foster directing. And I booked it, and I booked Marta again. And I was like, it was like meant to be. So I think that role for sure, that took me to other places, like, so it was a big, huge stepping stone for me. And I loved doing Lady of the Lake in Spamalot. That was a fun one. Goodness, I mean, I've done shows in California, but it's been such a long time.
It seems like it's been like 5 years since shows happened in California.
Yeah, it seems like a decade ago.
I saw you did Thoroughly Modern Millie too.
I did do Thoroughly Modern Millie. I did that when I was a senior in high school with my mom's theater company.
Oh my
goodness. It was a big deal because obviously we know how much I love Thoroughly Modern Millie. Yeah. And Sutton was like the end all be all for me when I was growing up. And I got to play that. I mean, nobody really does that show anymore. Obviously, it's got some like issues with the book, so they need to like do some rearranging of that, but I would love for them to figure out how to do that show in a kosher way and that's not offensive to people. And then I could revisit that role, because it's such a good, the score is so good, and I love having, the thing I was so struck by with Thoroughly Modern Millie is, in traditional musical theater, a role like Millie would technically be like the secondary character, like the sidekick. And then the role of Dorothy, her best friend, would be the main lead because she's the traditional ingenue. And, that show really shifted how the industry looked at what kind of actor and actress can lead a show. And who can we actually follow in the show as opposed to what is normally done. And it showed, great strength in women and comedic timing and how to really do all of the things in one role. And I just love that. So I would love for them to figure out how to make that be okay to do it again, you know?
And continue breaking barriers like that.
Yes, exactly. Because it's a really important type of story of the female experience to tell.
So you've mentioned Frozen. When did you get cast in Frozen at Hyperion?
Okay, so this is a story, but I'm going to try to make it concise. All the people in the musical theater world here in LA we were all hearing that Frozen was coming to the Hyperion, and I was sitting with friends that were in Aladdin: A Musical Spectacular, which is the show that Frozen took over for, like, kind of came in. I was sitting with friends that were in the cast of Aladdin when they got the phone call that Aladdin would be closing. So like I knew it was happening. It was for sure happening. And I also sing in an a cappella group, and one of the gals that was in the a cappella group was cast as one of the first Elsas for the workshop for Frozen Live at the Hyperion. So we all were aware that this was happening. It was greenlit, and so now they were looking for supplemental cast members because they like to have, for an opening of a show like that at Disney, they like to have like at least 5 people deep for every single role.
Wow.
So their goal was to have 7 deep for every role, but didn't end up really happening that way with certain cast members, just because some roles are harder to cast than others. And that's understandable. Especially when they're looking, our production was very different in the way that they were creating it. It was very diverse casting. And that was the first time ever that Disney had allowed that to happen, where the people playing the roles on stage didn't look like the characters in the movie. And so it really shifted the way that Disney does things. And so because of that, they were looking for all types of people, all shapes, sizes, backgrounds, racial backgrounds, ethnicities, everything, which I'm like so grateful to be a part of a show like that, you know, to be a part of exactly. And I just, yeah, it was great. So anyways, back to the main story. My agent heard that they were having auditions, and originally they called me in for Anna, and
okay.
And my mom was like, "You're going to go in for Anna? Okay, well, let's watch the movie and see what it's like." And we watched the movie, and because I had still 2 years after the movie had come out, I still had not seen the movie because
Really?
Oh my gosh, you should sing Let It Go. You should sing Let It Go. And I was like, oh my goodness, you guys, no, I'm not singing this song just because everybody wants me to. And it's the first like Disney female lead that's like belting, you know, and it's like a big deal and all that. But all the kids it was all about Frozen. And so I hadn't seen the movie yet. So we decided, let's watch it. And my mom turned to me in like the first scene, and she was like, "You're not Anna." And everybody had an opinion about me. They were like, "Well, you're Anna." "Oh, well, no, you're Elsa." "Oh, no, you're Anna." But like nobody had seen me play a role like Elsa before. They really had only seen me play roles like Anna, because that's where my background is. It's in comedy, and it's in like that sidekick kind of supporting role. And not that Anna is a supporting role, but she kind of falls into that. If you're looking at it in a very like black and white way, that's where she falls into that sidekick like supporting role.
Yeah.
So they were like, "Well, your personality is like Anna, so you should definitely play Anna." And then I was like, "Well, I don't sing like Anna."
Yeah.
And then they're like, "Well, you're not really an Elsa, but I guess you could sing Let It Go." And I was like, "Well, okay, thanks for your opinion." I really appreciate that.
Like, I wanted to go.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to sing Let It Go. Really, that's where my heart was. I was sort of ready in my career at that point to shift into something different. Because I had done the same thing over and over again, and I wanted to move into more, I mean, someone explained it like you can be leading lady. You don't have to always like hold yourself in the sidekick spot. So go for leading lady. And so I was trying to sort of transition into that.
Like, go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. So they originally called me in and I couldn't go to the audition. So I emailed my agent and I was like, hi, so I don't think that I should be going in for Anna. I really feel like I should be going in for Elsa. Can you ask them if they would be willing to see me for Elsa? And he said, okay, well, they want to see you for they're going to send you both of the sides and you just pick which one you want to do and then you just send that. I was like, okay. So I was doing a show at Performance Riverside, which is in Riverside.
Yeah.
And I decided one day in between, like in our tech day, I was playing Elizabeth Benning, so I'm not like in the whole show the whole time. And so during the times that I wasn't being needed during tech rehearsal, I would go into the lobby and like rehearse the scenes. And then in our lunch break, I filmed the whole thing and I sent it off and they like never said anything. I like never heard from them. And so I was like, oh, well, I guess they don't want me. So moving on to the next thing. And so I moved on to the next show. And then, so that was like October of 2015. And then flash forward to February of 2016, my agent gets a call and says, okay, we're looking for people now to like, they found 2 girls, but they need like many more to play Elsa because we're going to be opening it in the parks and it's going to be 7 days a week, 3 shows a day, and 2 girls can't do that.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So, can you have Chelsea come in for this audition? And so I said, sure. So I was able to go to the audition and they had me sing Let It Go from start to finish, which I don't know how familiar you are with like audition, the way that it goes. You don't typically, not typically walking into an audition room and being asked to sing the whole song. You're being asked to sing a snippet of a portion of the song, especially for the first audition. The first audition, they're like, let's just see if she can hold pitch and like sing these notes.
Yeah.
Right. So it was like a huge shock for them to say, okay, go ahead and we're going to sing Let It Go. From where? Oh, just start at the beginning and go to the end. Okay. So I had been like waiting in the waiting room for like a long time just because I got there early. And I had heard a bunch of people go in and sing Let It Go, and they were singing Let It Go, and then they were like being let go and leaving. And so I thought, okay, well, maybe we're just singing Let It Go, and then they'll call us if they want to see us for something else. But they had sent sides with us. Like we knew there was 2 sides to do in the packet. And so I sang Let It Go, and the guy goes, great, can you do this scene? And I was like, okay.
Sure?
Yeah, sure.
Is this a good sign?
Yeah, right, exactly. And so I did this scene and they were like, great, can you be back here tomorrow? And I was like, tomorrow? And so I said, yeah, sure, I can. And so they're like, okay, well, we'll email your agent. So then my agent calls me and he says, you got to go back tomorrow. They want to see you again. I went back the next day, and then I think was it tomorrow? Was it the next day, or was it? I think this was like a Tuesday, and they asked if I could be back on a Friday. So it wasn't like tomorrow. It was like a couple of days away. And so but they were like, okay, it's at a different spot. So blah, 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 blah. This is not turning in. This is like such a long-winded version of the story.
I love it though. I love it so much.
Okay,
exciting. It's exciting. And it's like it's like you want to hear the whole story because it's like one of the cliffhangers in like a musical. Don't leave me on a cliffhanger.
Sure. Okay, yes. Okay, great. Phew. Okay. So I go back. So here's actually like the part that I don't normally tell. That Friday I was supposed to, going to the audition, but it was like in the afternoon. So I was like, okay, I'll just kind of ease myself into the day. I won't speak until I have my tea, and then I'll warm up, and then I'll take a nice hot shower, and then I'll get ready, and then I'll go. Well, I planned to do all those things. And then what ended up happening is I put my tea down on like the side of the couch. We had like this little like armrest thing where it like clips onto the side of the couch, but it's like a little table.
Yeah.
And I sat down on the couch and the scalding hot tea fell into my lap. And now I've got like second, third degree burns.
Oh.
And no one is at home. I'm here by myself. And so I'm calling my mom sobbing, and like my mom says, call this person that we know that's a nurse and she'll tell you what to do. And so then she told me get into an ice bath. And so now I'm sitting in an ice bath. And I'm not even, I can't even explain to you how ironic the whole thing was. Because I'm literally frozen.
Yep. I was gonna say ice, Elsa.
Yes, exactly. The whole thing was just a hot mess, no pun intended. And I got like gauze, and my mom's friend that's a nurse came over and like gave me this like cream that is helpful for burns. And then like I wrapped it all up, and I was like, I'm not going to the audition. My mom was like, you're gonna go to the audition, just buck up and get in the car and drive there. And so I did all these things. I did what she said, and I like cried the entire way down to the audition. And I was like, I'm not even going to be able to sing because my voice is just shot because I've been crying all day long. Well, I don't know how this happened, but somehow I got to the audition, and I walk into, they were like, okay, you're going to be next. And great. So then they show me, I was like in so much pain. And I was just like praying, please let this pain go away so that I can go into this audition and actually do what I know that I can do. And don't let this be the reason why I don't get this role. This is stupid, you know? And something happened where I crossed the threshold from the lobby to the audition room, and like all the pain just like went away. I like had an out of body, like it was craziness.
Like something, adrenaline rush, maybe.
Yes, yeah, exactly. I just felt like everything's fine. And so they were like, great, sing Let It Go from start to finish. Okie dokie. So I sang that, and they were like, great, can you sing the second song? Because they had sent in the 4 days between the first audition and this callback, they sent the reprise of For the First Time in Forever. So I sang that. Like, great, can you do the side? Sure, I can do the side. And they're like, great, can you do the song again? Sure, no problem. Just do the end of Let It Go. We don't need to see the whole song. Great, no problem. So I get done with all of that, and they're like, okay, can you go into the other room? Because there's like the lobby, then there's the audition room, and then there's like a second room with like people, like Disney people in it. And they're like, good, go to the other room and get fitted. And I was like, oh, fitted? For costumes?
Like, this seems good. This is good.
I was like, this is going well.
At that point.
Exactly. So I get fitted. They literally, I had my hair like all curled and beautiful and like pinned up with like bobby pins. And they literally took my hair out of bobby pins, put it into pin curls, and then saran wrapped my head and made a cast of it. Like,
you were like,
audition. I was like, what's going on? And so then the casting director came out, and he was like, just out of curiosity, wink, wink, if we were to call you with an offer, wink, wink, would you be available on this specific date? Nudge, nudge. And I was like, yes. I have nothing going on in my life. So they're like, great. So this was a Friday. Now, because this is LA and it's Friday, and where I live, it's the only major freeway that goes to Vegas. So Friday is the worst day to travel. It was going to take me like 4 hours to get home, just the normal way. And so I went the back way, which is through the Los Angeles National Forest. And there's like no service for cell. Like I can't do any phone calling, nothing.
To tell people
I'm lost. Like that wouldn't be able to be happening. So I just drive home, and my agent, when I get home, I have like an email from my agent, and he's like, okay, I hear good things. So I got an email saying that that for all of his people on his roster, they'll be hearing, in the next couple of days. Okay, great. So then Monday morning rolls around, and I get a phone call from my agent saying they want to offer you the role of Elsa. Here's your offer. Look it over, and then let me know if you want me to accept it. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, right? And they were like, you need to be here on this day and this time to do all these things, and then rehearsal start on this day and blah blah blah. And I was like running around the house like I owned the place. And then 20 minutes later, I get another phone call from my agent, and he says, okay, so I just got a call from Disney and they're putting you on hold. And I was like, what what? Apparently I didn't know this at the time when I was auditioning because I didn't know. But the director, our director that directed the director. Why am I trying to make that more complicated? She was in New York opening a show on Broadway. She was the director of Eclipse. Eclipse? Eclipse.
It might be Eclipse.
Well,
sounds.
Yes. So Liesl Tommy, she's a Tony nominated director. She was directing a play and it was opening. And so she wasn't able to be at the audition for me. And so she said, I want to sign off on all the Annas and the Elsas because these are the two roles that the whole show revolves around. So if I need to know that they can do it.
Yeah.
And I want to be the judge of that. And I'm like, well, okay. And so then they were like, well, she's still opening her show. And so I don't know exactly when this will happen, but she just wants to meet you. So just hold tight. We're going to put you on hold. It's not going to be an issue. I don't think. We really feel really good about you. Everyone else has signed off on you. So it's really just meeting her. Like, oh, okay. So then 2 weeks go by. And I'm like not hearing anything. Like it's cricket.
You're like, I want to hear something now.
Yeah, exactly. And I finally get an email from my agent and he says, okay, so Liesl's back in town and they're having auditions on property at Disneyland on this day. Can you go? And no, I remember he said they're gonna make the audition day around you. So here are the options.
Well, that's a big deal.
I know. I was like, wow, this is amazing. They're like, here are the options. Just let me know if this time works. And if it doesn't work, then they'll just reschedule it on another day. And I said, no, that time works fine. Okay, great. So then I go and I'm thinking it's just going to be, they were like, bring everything just in case, but it's really just a meet and greet. It's like, this is the weirdest experience, but okay. So I get there, I get signed into Disney. They take me backstage. They take me to like this rehearsal area and Frozen is literally rehearsing and they're on lunch break. So I'm going in during their lunchtime, which is really awkward because like I'm walking past the entire cast. And now I'm trying to like meet this director and lo and behold, there's other people there auditioning. Like they're making it into a whole audition. So there's a guy that's there and then there's another gal for Elsa. And I was like, I have to prove that I'm good enough to play Elsa again. Like I still don't get this role. That's what I thought in my head. In retrospect, like that's not what was happening at all. But
you think like the worst. You overthink at the time.
Of course you do. So yeah. I go in to the room and she's like, great, sing Let It Go. And I'm like, literally the cast is in the next room and it's just like a carpeted like
you're like
they can hear me. Yeah. So I sing Let It Go and she was like, great. And then she like gets up and she comes over to me and she like has like this whole session with me for like 20 minutes. We're in the room and she's like giving me like acting beats and she's telling me what needs to happen at what parts of the song and what parts of the scene. And here's what I'm looking for here. And it's like this whole thing. And I was just so overwhelmed because I wasn't expecting to do all of this that day. And that was on me for sure. Like I should have been prepared like mentally to go in there and like fight for this role. But that's not how they set it up. And so I didn't anticipate that, but it's not their fault. It's my fault. So I'm doing all the things that she asked me to do. And I feel like really good about it. And everyone is sort of just like looking at Liesl to see what her reactions are whenever I do something. And finally, she's just like looking at me from behind the table and she's just like looking at me for like a long time. And then she says, actually, this is one of my favorite stories now. This is the part of the story that's actually the best. She says, great. Can you I want you to sing something from your book, like any song that you want to sing. And that they have not asked me to do that this whole process. So this is the first time. And I had a song in mind. And she was like, now I want you to pick a song where you can really act through the song. And I was like, okay. And she's like, does that change like your song choice? And I was like, nope, I'm still going to sing this song. And the thing about this song, I was singing The Life I Never Led from Sister Act. And I had literally 2 days prior to that found out that I hadn't gotten the role of Sister Mary Robert, which she's the role that sings that song in the show, at another theater in California. And I was devastated because I want to be Sister Mary Robb so bad. And I've auditioned so many times for the role and I've never gotten it.
You went all out for this.
So I was like, I'm going to do the song that they're not letting me do. It's literally the life that I never led. And so I thought that was kind of good for Elsa. So I went and put my music down on the piano and I told the guy, here's where my audition cut is. And he was like, you can sing a little more than that. And so I sang like the extra long version. And I got to the center of the room and she was like, okay, great. I'm really excited to hear this. And, remember, just really act through it. And something happened, I think, because I was overwhelmed with the whole process of Frozen because it had been a process. And then, yeah, right. So just a little. And then also because I had just auditioned for the show that I'm singing the song from. And the guy played the first chord, and I immediately just started sobbing. Like just tears just streaming down my face. And I like sang through the song and then something happened and I was able to just belt the end of the song perfectly. Like, I don't know, that's not normal. So, not for me, at least. I mean, Bernadette Peters can like sing through anything. I'm not that person. So somehow my voice just like opened up and I finished singing the song and she was like, okay, great. That's all I need. Grab my book and go back outside. And so now I have to wait while the other girl auditions for Elsa and the other guy auditions for the whatever role. And then they take me out of the backstage area of Disney and I go back to my car and I get into my car and I email my agent and I said, okay, I'm done. I'm leaving. I'm going home. And it takes like about an hour and 20 to get to Disney.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, this has been a process. And here's what I'm going to now claim. I'm going to drive home. And if I don't hear from Disney by the time I get home, then I'm going to just move on. And I know that I didn't get it. So I just had this feeling. I don't know. So I get in the car, I drive home, and I get to the freeway exit from my house. And I pull off and I'm sitting at the stoplight to turn onto the street. And my agent calls and he says, you got it.
Oh my gosh, the timing.
Right? And so I said, for reals this time?
What do I have to do next?
Yeah. And he said, no, I asked, is this for real this time? And they said yes. And so I stopped on my way home at Target and got like little Elsa keychains. And I came into the house and I told my parents to close their eyes and hold out their hands. And then I put the little keychains in their hands and I said, okay, open. And then they saw a little Elsa keychain and I was like, I got it.
And I'm sure they were like the whole time, you're going to get it. Like, you're going to get it, and talking you into like you getting it probably.
Yeah, I think, yes. I mean, obviously they were like, wow, you're really getting put through it for this role. Because I had no role in my life has ever had that much audition, like leading up to booking a role.
Yeah.
Prior to this time. Like up until then, I just went to the audition and I went to the callback. Like that's all that it was. So this was like really being put through the ringer. And so my mom, I think my dad was like, you're gonna get it. My mom was like, I mean, this is like a lot. But I think both of them kind of secretly in their hearts knew. as I think is normal with I think we all know when someone else is going to get something.
Yeah.
And then when it's us and the tables are turned, we're like, no, it's
Feel
not
the
gonna happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's my Frozen story.
I love it. What was the first time you stepped into Elsa's shoes? What was it like to step into a show that magical? Because like that production at Hyperion is full scale. It's incredible.
Yeah, it is. It really is. I mean, they spend like millions of dollars on that show.
Yeah.
So it's definitely high caliber. I remember the first time they had me come to an off-property, undisclosed location, and they like literally wouldn't give me the they wouldn't give me the address until like the day of. So it's like an undisclosed location, and they said you're gonna have a costume fitting. And so I go into the room and they give me all these like undergarments and they like fit me for shoes and stuff. And they're not like Elsa shoes. They're just shoes. They're just character shoes. So they're just fitting the mold. And then they bring in this like ice dress, and they were like, so this dress is actually the mock-up. It wasn't even a real dress. It was just a mock-up of one of the other gals that's playing Elsa, just so we can kind of have, we just want to see where you are so we know what kind of patterns and how different we're going to have to make your dress. It's just I don't know if you know anything about like costume making, but it's just a pattern basically. It was like two pieces of fabric that they sewed together, and they just wanted to see how different it was so that they knew how much fabric and all that jazz.
Yeah.
Ended up being Stephanie Wall's dress.
Okay. I don't know.
And Stephanie Wall, I mean, her and I do not have the same body type. She is like long and lean and has a beautiful body, and I have a very different body structure than her. And I was thinking to myself, you want me to get into Stephanie Wall's dress? Like, nice one. Where's the real dress? But no, they put me into that one, and they zipped it up in the back, and I looked down and I saw myself in the Elsa dress, and I started crying. And I like looked up at the costume. She was like costume, like not the designer, but she was like one of the helpers for the designer. And she said, I know, it's pretty magical, isn't it?
Yourself.
Yeah. And I was like, it didn't become real until this moment. And she goes, I'm so thankful that I was here for that. So she puts me into that. Then they put me into the coronation dress. They do the whole shoot and match, and it's all just mock-ups. Like, they're not like
the actual.
I mean, because I used to, when I give tours backstage, I used to tell people that like I wear like $250,000 in one show worth of costumes, just because they did not go cheap on any level. Like it's the same company that did all the original costumes for Wicked. They're the ones that were creating these costumes for
wow.
So like they're really expensive fabrics, like hand put on jewels and crystals, and like it's
like hours of work.
Like the cape, the ice cape for the second half of Frozen, it's all hand painted. Like it's not, nothing is like manufactured like on a conveyor belt. Like it's real costumes made for me, and it was just such a thrill to even just put on this mock-up, you know. And even the mock-up was just like so beautiful. I'm like, what are you doing with these pieces of cloth?
Can I have
them? Exactly. So it was such a dream, you know. Like I said, I hadn't been watching Frozen prior to like really auditioning for Frozen, and so it wasn't like Elsa was my dream. It was that Disney and working at Disney was the dream, and it was coming to fruition like in front of my eyes. And I was also a part of a like world debut cast. It wasn't like I was a replacement that they were just hiring, like with Aladdin, who was there for like 13 years. And so anyone that got a role of like Jasmine or Aladdin in any time in the 13 years, they didn't have the putting together process a part of their experience.
Rehearsal with everyone.
Yeah, but I was like, we were literally creating the show. And it was crazy, like we had ideas for what Frozen was going to be before I got there. They had like a whole thing fleshed out. And then when we were teching the show, we spent 4 days teching Let It Go by itself with no one else in the theater but the Elsas. And like they were coming up with new things as we were teching and figuring how things were going to work. And it was like a whole new experience, a whole new world, but wrong show.
But Frozen.
Yeah.
A whole new world but Frozen.
Exactly.
So, I mean, you were as you were saying, you were part of the rehearsal process for the show, and you were also new to Frozen at the time. So did that help you really like dive into making the character of Elsa your own, to like not have watched Frozen a million times pre doing the show?
Yes, that is exactly. I chose not to watch it anymore. So I think prior to we opened in May, and then I think in December was like the third time that I watched Frozen. So like I did not go to the movie for character development. I was not listening to the soundtrack because I didn't want, Idina does Idina well.
Yeah.
She does it better than well. She does it perfect, but I'm not her. And it was hard enough already to just be in a room where you're listening to different girls sing the same song and do the same role. And so I didn't want to get confused. It was already confusing enough. So I chose to just stay away from the movie. And it wasn't until I had been like doing the role for 5 months when I actually decided I'll watch the movie again. So, yeah, it was great. I actually am glad I did it that way because, Liesl was very adamant about make her your own. Don't try to copy anyone else here, and don't try to copy what you've seen in the movie. Just be honestly Elsa according to you. And so I really just took that to heart, and I tried my best to not get psyched out by seeing other women do the role, because that can be really
comparing.
Yeah, it's hard. And I don't think that anybody that's ever covered a role or shared a role would say anything different. I think it's something that you have to do what's best for you as the actor. And if that means that you're going to watch that person and like study them, then that's what you do. And if that means that you're just going to ignore the fact that they're playing the role as well, and you're going to just try to stay in your lane, then that's what you do. And for me, it's like a little happy medium. I like to see what other people are doing. So I don't want to be, I like to see it's a collaborative effort. So, but I don't want to be so married to whatever and to what someone else is doing that doesn't make sense in my head.
Yeah, you want to come up with your own choices. And that's what makes live theater special, even though like Hyperion audiences might be a lot of kids who are familiar with the movie, but it's still a live theater audience, and it's different every time. It's supposed to be. It's live theater.
Right, exactly. It's live theater at its core. And yeah, it's a huge machine, and we do it multiple times in a day, every single day of the year, but it still is different every performance.
When was the first time you really felt as Elsa that you were like making the kids who were coming to see it like happy, and you were like that Elsa that they imagine in real life? Like they see Elsa on stage and they're like, oh, she's come out of the movie.
Yes, thank you so much for asking this question, because there's a difference between like the first audience and like hearing a bunch of these like Disney fans, that like hardcore Disney fans, they're on opening weekend. They've been standing in line for hours to see this, right? Parents aren't so willing when they have young kids to do that, because at the beginning when Frozen first opened, literally people would be like, there was like a queue outside of the park for Frozen. And then that line would go all the way like halfway down downtown Disney. And then when they opened the park, you had to go into the special lane to go to the fast pass line for Frozen, and then hope that you were one of the 2,000 that were getting a fast pass. And so it was craziness. And so parents with kids, like multiple kids that are young, it's like not going to happen. So I think the first time I recognized, oh, I'm literally someone's dream, like on stage. It was a few months into the run, and at the end of the show, the whole cast steps forward and we're singing Love is an Open Door, and we're like pointing to the audience, with you, with you, with you, you know, this whole thing. And it's the first time I, as Elsa, would actually look out into the audience. And it's the first time that Elsa like breaks that fourth wall.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't really do, I mean, Anna does that. A lot of the ensemble does that. Obviously, Olaf and Sven would do that. They would like play with, you know, that was part of everyone else's story, but not Elsa's. So it's that time in the show is my first time to do it. And I would step forward, and I remember this very clearly. This little girl in the front row, she was in a full Elsa dress. And I looked at her and I like just pointed at her and love is an open door with you. And she lit with the music. I was like, well, with you. And she went, with me. And then I went, with you. And she was like, oh. And she looked over at her adult and she was like, Elsa said with me. And tears just like flew into my eyes. I could not believe it. And I got off stage afterwards and I was like, did anybody else see that? And a bunch of people around me said, oh my gosh, I started crying. It was so magical to see this little Elsa, like having Elsa tell her that she is like worthy, you know, that's what that meant to me. And I just couldn't believe that I was a part of someone's story. I was a part of her growing up, in knowing that, you know, there's so many things that are possible, and like love thaws, and it's such a powerful thing to get to be a part of a kid's experience at Disney. There's nothing else like it.
Yeah, and I mean, like Frozen has been big for the past. When did it come out? The first one? I forgot when the first one came out, but since it's come out, like Frozen has been. Kids are like, Elsa, Anna, Olaf.
Oh my gosh, it's like it's still like I read to kindergartners for school down in the valley, and they put in like my introduction, like Chelsea is one of the Elsas at Frozen Live with the Hyperion. And so then all the parents they were like, you know, Miss Chelsea, she's Elsa.
Oh my goodness. So you're like, should I show up in like an Elsa way? Or?
Yeah, like they were the first day they were like, Elsa. And then I like got like these 5-minute Elsa or Frozen books to like read to them. And like I said, I have a special book to read to you. It's Frozen. And every single child, didn't matter what their background was, what language they speak first, or if they were a little boy or a little girl, it didn't matter. They were like, Frozen.
Yep. I mean, even me.
I know.
And I just turned 28, and even me, so.
I mean, it's special to me. I think obviously I have a reason for it to be special other than just loving the movies. But that's how I am with Belle. That's how I am whenever I see Donald Duck in the theaters. What am I talking about? In the parks.
Yeah.
I like start crying. It's magical, you know, when there's these characters that you grew up with, that you have these emotional attachments to, and they're coming down the parade route and they wave at you and they blow you a kiss. It's like, my life could not be better. You know, it's a really magical thing.
True, because the first time I saw the characters of Tangled at having one of their meeting routines was at the park, then I was like, finally, I'm like here for this, because I came to the park before and never saw them.
Yep.
It was so special.
I know. It really is. Disney just knows how to, they've got it figured out. They've figured out how to directly access those small little crevices in your heart that can easily be awoken, and bring back such potent memories, and then just like tug at them the entire time you're at the parks. And I'm just on the verge of tears all of the time. I mean, this has nothing to do with Frozen, but I remember when I went to Disney World and I went on Flight of I went on Flight of Passage, which is the Avatar like
Okay.
Pandora World area.
Yeah.
Like, I remember the first time I went on that ride, I started crying because it's just so beautiful. They just know how to do it, you know?
They know how to make you feel like part of the universe.
That's right. They really, really do.
Yes. Thanks for watching part 1 of my interview with Chelsea and Franko, but it's not finished yet. Make sure to check out part 2 to hear her talk all about her journey with Wicked.